The development of outcomes is a critical step in a family-centered IFSP process. We need only look at the definition of outcome statements to begin to understand their central role in the process. Outcomes, simply stated, are the changes family members want to see for their child or themselves in relation to their child's development. Watch the next vignette, keeping in mind the definition of outcomes and their role in the overall picture of a family-centered IFSP process. Identify what may be barriers to retaining this important role and how you might overcome such barriers.
Sure they will.
And that's another big step that took a lot of work and energy, is remember that time that I came out that we did take some time to look at what your concerns were, try to identify what resources you had, within the community, within your family, and help you prioritize, which had to come first.
Yeah, we kept you here a long time, didn't we?
Yeah, but it was a great visit.
I think that the only way you really know those resources is to have somebody like you that can help you find them, because you don't always know where they're at, and talking about it and having your input and our input. I think that's the way you discover that. You discover those things.
Right. Well, it's tough. I mean, these are services that since Dorian was born and the services that you had then, they're going to be very different from now.
Right.
They're going to be more advanced. Right. They're also going to be in greater numbers, and it's tough to keep up with that.
Right.
We, at the office even, we have, part of our role is just keeping up with resources. I mean, and that could be a full-time position in itself.
We know.
And we learn from different family experiences, as well as other coordinators in the office. We come back and we share newfound resources, new innovative ways. We're always coming up with more creative ideas, and families are always coming up with more creative ideas to meet their needs and to locate new resources when some need to be located or even developed.
Right.
Families have even developed resources where there weren't any.
Right.
With respect to support groups or parent-to-parent networks. Very active right now. So there's a lot going on.
I find that the support groups are something that are very beneficial to families, because like the way we felt with Dorian, you don't think anybody else is out there to help you, when in fact there are people out there that have it worse than you who can help you, and they can also enlighten you to maybe some things that are coming up that you may not be aware of, or may not think that you're going to need. So I think that interaction, just like I told you with talking to you about resources, it all helps you out, because it's the only way you learn, through talking. And so,
exactly. And meeting other parents. And where we are at this point today is in looking at those resources and those needs, you were going to be developing some outcomes for Joshua and for your family. And I think a lot of the work that we've already put in will make that a smoother process. And I think for you guys, I know that you're going to be very involved in this whole process. Now, I remember that at our last meeting, we had talked a little bit about, you had asked if someone could come to help you develop some outcomes related to Josh's physical development specifically. And Janice will be coming a little bit later. I purposely scheduled her a little later so that we could go over the other outcomes.
How do you develop outcomes and growths?
They don't have to be real technical, and that's
motor development.
Well, you can, a lot in some other families that I've worked with, they've said things as simple as, we just want him to be able to roll over, have more head control. It really depends on how specific you want it, and where he is now, and where you'd like him to be. And
so you can't be too general, and you can't be too petty.
You can be as general as you want, whatever you feel you need as an outcome.
Karen, I do have one more question, but you go ahead first.
If he reaches that outcome, then you can come up with another one. All of these outcomes that you've been developing and that you are developing, you may meet them, you may decide that they weren't right, you'd like to change them, you'd like to add to them. That's fine. It's what you would like to see happen for you and Joshua and your whole family.
Does she have any background information on that, so she knows what we're looking for? This will be her first time.
I just briefly told her about what you wanted her.
okay.
I didn't give any specifics about
Dorian,
him.
his
No,
history?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, none of that was shared.
Only what she needed to know about
Just
Josh.
basically said that, yeah, where you were in the stage,
Okay.
that he was eligible for some Part H services, and that you wanted to talk to her about helping you guys develop some outcomes with his development. Feel comfortable to share whatever you feel comfortable with, but I haven't shared anything.
Okay, okay,
Other
great.
than
She'll
that.
help us to develop them and who will implement them.
Well, that's really the next step, Garland. I'm glad you asked that question. The next thing we'll be doing is developing some strategies and activities related to your outcomes to see how you're going to achieve those outcomes. And we'll also be weaving in some services that will fit into those strategies and activities.
Karen, our family has a lot of questions about cerebral palsy. This is something very new and different for us. Spinal bifida, you know, with Dorian, we're very experienced with that, but cerebral palsy is something totally different to Garland and I, so we'd like a lot of information about that.
I really need some resources and some information that'll help me educate the family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and especially the boys. If somebody can really educate us about what we're going to be dealing with in the future, it would be very much appreciated.
That's very important, Garland. It sounds like it's a very high priority for you.
Karen, you know, all these things are really a priority for us. We need to learn more about benefits, especially SSI, for instance. Years ago when I tried to apply for Dorian, things were very complicated and confusing. Are they any easier today?
Yeah, they are easier. In fact, you can start the process by phone.
Oh yeah, really? How do we do that?
Well, I can give you information about that today, but I really don't want to lose the momentum about talking about your outcomes. Is it okay if we wait till the end of the meeting for me to share that with you?
Yes. It'll be okay.
That'll be all right.
Great.
Get that door.
That must be Janice. She's right on time. When she comes in, I'll introduce you guys to her, and we'll get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Audrey Shepard. I'm Janice's supervisor. I know you're expecting her today, but she had to be called away for a family emergency. So I'm going to be here with you
Mommy, can we
today.
go outside and play?
Excuse us a minute.
Mommy, Kristen, I'm gonna go to the toy.
Come on, Chris, you want to let them hold your toy? I'm sorry about this. They just...
I'm sorry. Excuse me, hi Karen.
Hi, how you doing, Stella?
I'm okay.
We go outside.
Dorian, Justin, Trevor, and Christian, come on, let's
Tell me what you
go.
holding.
Yeah, come on. I just turned my back for a minute to get the baby, and they came right in here. I'm sorry. Come on, let's go. Come on,
Man,
move
keep them
it.
straight.
Move it, move it. Come on, let's
Don't
go
get too wet
outside.
outside, okay?
Let's go outside. Oh,
Wait, take a break. Okay.
How many kids did I count?
5.
5.
Yeah.
5
We have 5 sons.
sons. Oh my goodness. Well,
Well, let me introduce the players here. My name is Karen Jensen. I'm the coordinator that's working with the Hughes family. This is Sandy and Garland,
nice
Joshua's
to meet you.
parents.
Nice to meet you.
And it may be helpful, I guess, for me. Did you say that Janice can't come today because?
No, Janice isn't going to be able to make it. She has to go out of town on a family emergency. So I'm going to take her place today.
Okay. So it's going to be helpful for me to sort of, I guess, bring you up to speed and tell you exactly why we asked Janice to come.
Okay.
Okay. Sandy and Garland just wanted some ideas and some expertise on what kinds of outcomes they can be thinking about and developing with respect to Joshua's physical development. They've done a great deal of work on developing some other outcomes for their family, but they needed and asked for some technical expertise from someone who might be familiar with what outcomes would be appropriate for this.
So we're really hoping that you can offer some guidance in helping us develop these outcomes.
When you say outcomes, do you mean goals and objectives? You know, it's been a while since I've done actual service delivery, but because of my supervisory position, I feel like that there might be a lot of good information that I can give you about cerebral palsy for your son.
Let me take a second to clarify. There is a very big difference between outcomes and goals and objectives. Outcomes are really more what the family wants for their child and actually for themselves with respect to their child and their child's development.
Right, and Audrey, as I understand and the way we've been in this process so far is that we developed the outcomes that we'd like to see happen for our child, and we're the integral part of developing those outcomes. Does that help any?
Do you have any information that you can share with me today?
Sure. Since you're not familiar with our son Joshua, these are his medical assessments.
Okay. There's some information that maybe we could go over today. We could talk about how Josh's functional level is, his skills and all. One thing is like, how does he do in a supine position or in the prone?
What is supine?
Why don't we stop here a second? Let me explain why Janice was coming. That might be helpful before we really get into the actual outcome development.
Okay.
Janice was invited here today because Sandy and Garland had asked for some assistance, some sort of technical expertise to help them develop some outcomes related to Joshua's physical development. They know what he's doing and what he's not doing. They needed some help in tying it together as an outcome. When looking at services, later down the road, they wanted some help in developing these outcomes, and we thought that Janice might be helpful. Janice has worked with some other families with me and has been very helpful, tremendously helpful with families, and she's done this in the past, and it's exactly what they were asking for.
Well, this is a new system, and I'm not very familiar with the process.
The IFSP process and the development of the outcomes is really a family-driven process.
Right, we just really want to know, Audrey, what we can expect Joshua to do and how we can help him to do it.
So maybe we can discuss today about what Joshua's doing, what he isn't doing, what you would like to see him do, and what I can do today to help you meet these needs.
Audrey, one thing that I noticed about Joshua is that we put a mobile in his crib, and he doesn't even reach for the mobile. That he also spends a lot of time laying on his back, and he will not roll onto his stomach.
He's also not sitting up, Audrey, and that's a major issue for us.
Is that the kind of information that you're looking for that will be helpful with respect to him not reaching for toys and things like that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we can get into developing some outcomes.
Exactly.
Right.
That'd be great.
An outcome can focus on any area of child development or family life that a family feels may enhance their child's development. Outcomes differ significantly from the goals and objectives that are contained in a child's individualized education program. IEP goals and objectives are the short and long-term behaviors that are the targets of special education or therapeutic intervention. Outcomes, these statements of what families want to have happen, become the foundation for identifying IFSP strategies and activities and subsequent services that will be used to bring about the outcomes. Exactly how this happens will differ with each individual family. Family culture and ethnicity may play a large part in what role families choose and what kind of outcomes they are seeking for their child or themselves. Yet, all families must be provided opportunities to direct the team process for collaborative development of the outcomes. Please stop the tape for discussion of other family-centered approaches you might have used in the past or that you might want to try in the future in developing outcomes. The purpose of the initial IFSP meeting is fairly straightforward: to formalize decisions about outcomes, strategies, activities, and service provision. How this can happen in family-centered, coordinated, and collaborative ways is often much less straightforward. While the law has some basic requirements for who attends this meeting and what is accomplished, there is no single right or wrong way for these meetings to happen. There are some guidelines, however, for retaining a family-centered approach. These include family preferences for the IFSP meeting, such as time, location, and participants, should be honored. The IFSP document does not drive the process or this meeting. Rather, it should confirm and reinforce that the process and meeting are happening in family-centered, coordinated, and collaborative ways. Families should be given the opportunity to lead the meeting, to speak first, and to participate in whatever ways are most useful to them. Family-centered communication skills are essential in preparing for and participating in the meeting. While you watch the next vignette, Identify ways that family-centered, coordinated, and collaborative approaches are consciously made a part of the planning and of the meeting itself. Also look for what occurs that, despite best intentions, might undermine a truly family-centered process if left unacknowledged or unresolved.
School, great. I'll see you at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Hi, Betty, it's Cindy. Can you hold my calls? I'll be in a meeting for about an hour. Thanks. Kathy, do you want something to drink? A coffee, soda?
No, thanks. I'm fine. Do you really think it'll take an hour? I've got to pick Laura up by about 3:30, and I'm a little worried about traffic.
Oh, no, that's fine. You just let me know when you need to go.
I'm really glad we're meeting right now. I'm a little worried about this IFSP meeting. I don't really know what to expect.
Well, would it help if we just review what we've discussed so far and talk about some options for this meeting?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay. Well, when you and I first talked back in August, shortly after Laura was born...
Oh, no, Cindy. I forgot Laura's folder. I don't believe I forgot Laura's folder. We got so busy this morning, and then Laura wouldn't eat breakfast. Well...
Oh, don't worry. Here, we'll both go by what I have for today. Let me know if I'm missing anything.
Okay, thanks.
Where were we? We first met when Laura was born, but you and John wanted to wait a little while before going ahead with involvement in their early intervention program.
Yeah, we really needed time. A lot of people said that we shouldn't wait, but things were really complicated then, and I'm really glad that we did wait. It's gotten so much easier now, and it's so much simpler, and I've really got a much better understanding of Down syndrome now and what Laura means for our family and what kinds of things we have to deal with. So, you know, you and I have talked about all that, but it's really been hard on Michael.
Is he still watching her every move? I can still picture him the first time I met Michael and Laura. He was so attentive and proud of her that day.
Yeah, he sure does love his little sister, but we're starting to see some sibling rivalry now. Just yesterday I was giving Laura a bath, and for my attention, Michael grabbed the powder and he started shaking it all over the place.
Oh, no.
So I had to hurry up, get her out of the tub, and go take care of him. And you know, it's just the kind of thing where he wants Mom's attention and Laura has it. So I think he's kind of noticed that Laura takes a little bit more time and needs a little bit more attention than he does. So it's a real problem now, but we'll deal with it.
Well, I haven't seen them in a while. I'd love to see them again sometime soon. Okay, I could talk about family afternoon, but I know that you have other things to get to. So let's see, you called the early intervention program in June 17th to get things started, right?
Yeah, that was after a 9-month checkup, and Dr. Reed and I talked about maybe it was time that we start getting some services for her. So I thought about it for about a month or so, and then I decided it was time to call, so I did.
Well, since then, a lot's happened. We've talked a few times about what some of your concerns are, and your neighbor Joan brought up some important issues at the time that we met with her.
Yeah, Joan's been a big help. Being on my own, well, I'm beginning to realize how important my neighbors and friends are. I was real scared when I came home from the hospital with Laura and all, since I don't have family or anything in the area. And, well, you and I have talked about that, so why don't we move on to the rest of the meeting? Who's going to be there?
Well, there really are some options. Of course, you need to be here, and is there someone else you'd like to have here with you?
Well, maybe Joan, and you'll be here,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And where's it going to be?
Do you still want to have the meeting here in our conference room?
I think so, yeah. I don't really want to play hostess or anything. I'd kind of like to just be able to keep my mind on the meeting and all. So I think here would be fine.
Also, the law does require that at least one person who did an assessment with Laura take part in the meeting. How about the developmental pediatrician, Pat Curran? It seemed like you and Laura really liked her.
She was nice, and she seemed really interested in Laura. Should we have any of the people who we've been talking to about services?
Well, it's up to you, but I think it would be a good idea so that we can use the meeting to confirm what we've talked about with different people and programs. But it's important to balance what's comfortable for you and who really needs to be, who would be useful to have in the meeting.
Well, since we've talked about that one program, you know, about providing physical and occupational therapy, do you think we could have like one person from that program being there?
I think that's a good idea. I'll call them and check. How about someone from special education? It's not unusual for someone Laura's age to be in a school-based education program. Maybe a half day for a couple days a week.
Can we wait until Laura's maybe 18 months or 2 years old? I just don't see her going off to school. I think she's ready for some of the physical kind of stuff, but she gets real shy around new people and new places, and that's why having her next door with Joan is really nice, because it keeps her things, as normal as possible. Life gets to stay pretty close to what we're used to. And I just don't see her going to school. I really don't.
No, we don't have to have someone there from education. But it might be good to have an educational perspective, even if we don't include education services now. Since education is the lead agency in this area, it might be helpful anyway.
Okay, I guess so.
So it sounds like we have the makings for a good IFSP meeting. You, me, Joan, Dr. Curran, someone from education, and one person from the therapy program. How does that sound to you?
Okay.
Preparation for the initial IFSP meeting is often as important as the meeting itself. A critical part of the service coordinator's role is to assure that the process is coordinated and collaborative among all members of the team, and that the meeting reflects family preferences and priorities based on an understanding of all options. This will also greatly facilitate the conduct of the meeting itself. Yet, individual agendas, family priorities, and service system constraints can often pose a difficult balancing act. The more these potential challenges can be anticipated and strategies developed in advance, the more productive and positive will be the meeting itself. Clarifying roles, openly discussing agendas, and identifying options are only a few of the strategies that can be used to prepare for a family-centered IFSP meeting. Look for where these things do and do not happen in the IFSP meeting that follows.
I'm sorry I'm late. I hope you haven't been waiting too long.
No, and we all just sat down. Welcome.
Thanks.
Maybe it would be helpful if we introduce ourselves briefly, tell a little bit about what we each do and how we're involved with Laura and her family. And let me start off. I'm Cindy Reynolds. I'm the service coordinator with the Bowers, and I'll be facilitating this meeting.
I'm Kathy Bauer. I'm Laura's mother, and I have a 4-year-old son, Michael. My daycare provider, Joan, she was going to be here, but unfortunately I needed her to watch Laura, so she couldn't make it, so I apologize for that.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Celeste Perry. I am the assistant administrator with the Department of Education, which is the lead agency for Part H services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Pat Curran. I'm a developmental pediatrician, and I had the opportunity to meet Laura and Kathy when they came in for Laura's assessment and evaluation.
I'm Frank DiFilippo. I'm a physical therapist with a Child and Family Services program, and based upon Laura's assessments, I think she'll be eligible to receive some services from our program.
Hey, I'm really glad you could all make it. I've had the chance to talk with each of you a little bit about the IFSP that we've been developing as a team, and Kathy's offered to share some of her thoughts about Laura's strengths. Kathy?
Thanks, Cindy. One of the things that I really find to be pretty positive about Laura is that she's learning to manipulate her environment and to manipulate us to do what she wants us to do. Like, Laura likes to have 2 of everything, 1 for each hand. So if you've given her 2 cookies, she's got to have 1 in each hand. You can't give her 1 now and give her another one later. You have to do that. And when we're playing with learning how to build blocks and put blocks in cups and different things like that, she's got to have 1 in each hand. You can't give her 1. You have to give her 2, 1 for each hand. She'll put those in, then you give her 2 more. And I think for being a little under a year, that's pretty good that she's learned that she can do that to us and say, make us do it the way she wants it done, not the way we want it done. So we have to go with her. And I also think that it's really positive for her that she definitely knows what she likes and what she doesn't like. It's not like an if or a but kind of thing, but she really knows, no, I don't want that, or no, I don't want this, or yes, I do. And I think that's really positive for a child who's just under a year, because my son never did that. It was kind of like one day he liked it, the next day he didn't. And for Laura, no, she always knows exactly what she wants and exactly what she doesn't want. So I think those are real positive things for her.
That's great. I'm really glad you shared that, because sometimes in these meetings we don't think about what the kids are able to do. We think more about what they're not able to do. And it's just nice to hear what you said, to have us really picture her personality and picture how she deals with people. So thanks.
Okay, I'd like to take a moment to review the outcomes that have been developed and then the strategies, activities, and services that have been recommended and discussed. Does that sound okay with everyone? Right. Okay. I made copies of the document that we've developed so far so that everyone can follow along. Thanks. Let's start by looking at the outcomes on page 4. There really are just 3 that the family wants to focus on at this point. First, Kathy wants support for herself as the parent of a child with Down syndrome. And second, Kathy wants Laura to be able to move better and to be involved with her environment. And third, Kathy wants to look into eligibility for supplemental security income, or SSI, benefits. Kathy, have I left anything out, or do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's okay.
Cindy, if I could, I'm not sure why I'm here. There doesn't seem to be anything in the plan about a school-based program.
No, there's not.
No, Kathy's not interested at this time, but I thought it might be helpful for you to be here to provide some information to the team on what services are available and what kind of things we should be planning ahead for. Also, since funding issues may come up, I thought it would be good to have you as representative of the lead agency to field those questions.
Okay, that helps me put everything in perspective.
That was real helpful to me, too. I really didn't understand why I'd have somebody from education here since I don't plan on putting Laura into a school-based program, and so I wasn't really sure. But that helps me understand what the lead agency is all about and why she's here.
I'm sorry, I should have made that clearer for everybody.
Cindy, would you mind if we jump directly to the second outcome because I have a meeting to attend in about half an hour?
Fine. Is everyone okay with that?
You know, the reason I waited to contact the early intervention program was because, one, there were a lot of things going on with my family right then, and I wasn't really comfortable getting started into things. And also because, well, Laura's so tiny and she's just a baby, and I really didn't feel like, you know, school and physical therapy and all were like right at the time. And I also didn't want it to be like, you know, Laura's places and Michael's places and so forth. I wanted to just go ahead and keep her life and, you know, what goes on as normal as possible. So, you know, I feel like most kids start off by, you know, learning and moving about their environment and exploring. And then, you know, I wanted to keep her in places she's familiar with and not just, you know, she goes to the daycare, you know, and then she goes to the therapy and to school and stuff. So I just wanted to keep things as normal as possible.
That was the reason we contacted your program, Frank. Just last month, I was working with a family that wanted home-based services, and we found that it was something you could provide. And we thought it would be a good match here, too.
Unfortunately, we just lost some major grant funding. And it doesn't look like we'll be able to do any home-based services, at least not for a while.
Oh, boy. Well, I didn't even think to check since I'd spoken with your program so recently. Do you know of any other programs?
No, I don't personally know of any programs, but I know my director is working on transitioning a lot of our families who need home-based services to programs that offer them. So I'd be glad to give you her name and number.
Our hospital is starting a community-based program, and maybe we'd be able to provide home-based services. It's not going to be up and running yet right away, but probably in the next month or two. So one idea would be to contact this person and to see when services will be available, and maybe we could provide them for you.
Okay, great. Well, if transportation's the issue, as a representative from the lead agency, we sometimes provide families with transportation options. Sometimes we use taxi vouchers. There's also van services that you may be entitled to. It would all depend on where you live, the programs that you would be interested in. So these would be possibly some linkage services or some options that the lead agency could provide for you.
It looks like the second outcome needs to be explored in more detail. And Kathy, how are you feeling about these changes?
You know, Cindy, I'm not real comfortable with this right now because my main priority with Laura is the physical therapy stuff, and I really did want it at home. I mean, the other programs sound really good. You know, I'd really like to, but my problem is time, and, you know, it's not good for me to have to go from here to there. Time is just a real big issue for me. And also there's the thing that sometimes I would need my daycare provider to stay at my home for the therapist to come because I may not necessarily be there. So I really think, you know, I'm kind of uncomfortable and would like to explore this a little farther.
I understand your concerns, Kathy.
Cindy, I'm sorry, I really have to go right now. But I do think our program can offer some options, even though it's not home-based at this point. I think we could offer some parent training or possibly training your daycare providers to teach you and her things that you could do at home to follow up on services, even though they would be in a clinic at this point. I also think that maybe a few months down the road that my program will be able to offer some home-based services again. Unfortunately, I have to go, but maybe we could sit down very soon, the three of us, and talk about options within my program, and just so I could give you a little more detail about what we would have to offer.
Kathy, how does that sound?
That sounds okay.
Good. Thank you.
Before Frank leaves, I just want to say that we've talked about this before and just how important Laura's physical development is at this time. And I understand your concern about time, and maybe what we could do with your program, Frank, is provide the parent training maybe on a monthly basis, and then you'll know what to do with Lauren, at least between now and when she's in a home-based program. And then between both of our programs, we can see who has home-based services first, and then we can provide you with the home-based services as soon as possible. But in the interim, in the short term, at least you would know what to do with her on a regular basis so that you can optimally help her development.
You know, I'm beginning to feel a little bit more comfortable about this, and they have brought up some good points and some good options that maybe I could choose from. But didn't you say something about we have to do this within, I think it was 45 days or something like that? How does this all fit in?
That's an important question. Hang on. Frank, I know you need to go.
Great. Will we meet again soon then?
Yes, I'll be in touch to coordinate the three of us getting together.
Great. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Let me get back to your question. The 45-day timeline is very important, but it's not etched in stone. And you, as the family, have the ability to lengthen or slow that process down if it would better meet your needs. And so there are some options that we can look at. We can either sign the IFSP now and have some things in place that address outcomes 1 and 3, and we can add plans that address outcome number 2 later. Or we can just hold off on signing the IFSP and wait until all of the plans are in place that address each of the outcomes. It's up to you.
I think I'd like to wait until we have everything in place before we sign it. I'm not real comfortable with doing part now and part later, so I'd rather wait.
Okay, that's fine. Would you like to use time now to do some more planning?
Yeah, that would probably be helpful if we sat here and looked over some things before we finish.
2 core beliefs: that families know their children best and that they are equal members on the early intervention team, have the opportunity to be honored and enhanced or undermined and diminished within the context of each IFSP meeting. The service coordinator often plays a critical role in assuring that these beliefs are fostered throughout the IFSP process. Recognizing and promoting the family as the driving force in the IFSP process is not a simple task. Stop the tape for discussion of family-centered approaches that you liked in this vignette, what you might have done differently, as well as approaches you have used that have worked well or ones you'd like to try in future IFSP meetings.